The Catholic Church is always asking for money. Ugh. Hello and welcome back to my channel for vLENT Day 8. We have been reading through the Diary of Saint Faustina together, and today we are discussing journal entries 228 to 267. What caught my attention the most in this section was how Saint Faustina kept talking about becoming a little child. In 242, she says, "Oh God, how much I desire to be a small child. You are my Father. You know how little and weak I am. So keep me close by your side." So we hear this phrase about becoming a little child pretty often, here and there. Some saints mention it, and then even in scripture, in Matthew chapter 18, verse 3, Jesus says that unless you become like a little child, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven. Something similar to that. So we hear this, like we have to become a child? What? I thought we were supposed to grow in maturity. What's the deal here? And this whole concept hit me when it comes to the collection during Mass, where you, if you've gone to a Catholic service, they pass a basket around, or sometimes the ushers will have like a basket on a stick, and they'll come and people put an offering into the basket, and then they bring it up as they bring up the gifts. So growing up, I have a lot of family members who are not Catholic, and so I always heard these things about how the Catholic Church always wants money, and they're obsessed with money, and that's all they want. And you hear these different criticisms, but that's one big one that came up very frequently. And especially when it comes to, they pass around a thing to throw your money in during the service, what gives? And I thought of that too, yeah, is that really an appropriate time to collect money? What's the deal here? And it wasn't until I grew up and got older that I understood the value in it. So part of the reason that it happens during the service, and it is that offering, that collection, and we do it together as opposed to having a basket sitting out in the entryway of the church where people can just do it on their own, is because it becomes communal. It's something that we're doing together. And when you think of it, our priests and the people in our parishes offer us so much. And especially just to run a building, all the costs involved with having somebody clean it, you have to pay for that. You have to pay for the electricity, the heating bill, all the different maintenance aspects of a church, like the physical building. And then beyond that, there's just a lot of different costs involved. And then plus any kind of service work that your parish is doing to be Christ to others or people in need. And so it requires a lot of money. That's just the reality. And so when you can come together as a parish to help contribute in any way you can with that free will offering, that's really great. But as we become adults, we get very bitter, don't we? We think, well, I work hard for this money. Why am I going to put it in a basket so some priest guy can do whatever he wants of it? I've seen the car he drives. I've seen the house he lives in. People make these judgments. Or, does our church really need to get a new piano? What was wrong with the old one? I don't really want to pay for a new piano. Whatever it is that kind of clouds your mind. And I think it's natural to be, kind of aware of where the money's going. But usually if you have a good priest, they're pretty good about being very open about where the money's going. Especially at my parish, our priest is just amazing at being very clear where the money's going, and I just think he does such a good job of it. And I've realized that certain parishes have certain styles of things, and maybe it's just their way of giving or their way of doing things, but the parish that I grew up going to does seem very centered on donations and stuff, and so I just go to another one where they're very candid about where they're spending their money. The priest is amazing at my parish, and I can see the work that they're doing. And so sometimes it's just a matter of going to a parish where you kind of can understand what they're doing a little bit more in their works. Anyway, for my main story, one day not that long ago, I thought, oh, I want to grab a couple dollars and things for the kids to put into the basket during Mass. It just was this thought that came to my head, and I had money sitting there. I was like, oh cool, I'll bring this to Mass. So I did this, and my son, who was about 19 months old at the time, I gave him a little bit of money to put into the basket. And He was so excited to do that. He just like had a smile on his face. He was waving it around. I don't think he got it into the basket on the first try. I think he was like trying to drop it in there and he kept missing the basket, but eventually it made its way in. And I remember that joy that he had doing that. Like he was so excited to put the money in the basket. And I remember when I was a kid, it was like, when can I put the money in the basket? Like I would hold on to that envelope because we would put it in an envelope. I just like could not wait to put my money into the basket. Yeah, money in the basket. I don't know why it was so fun. It's not like it was like a game of skill and I'm trying to like shoot a basketball into a basket. It was just like fun to do and I just was so excited. And we don't fully understand the value of money when we're little, but we do understand enough that, we could take that money and buy a piece of candy or get a small toy at the store, but it's just so much fun to give. But as we get older, it becomes a lot less fun because we have a lot of expenses, we have bills, and we tie a lot of emotion to our money. It represents some good things, but it also can evoke feelings of stress. And so because of that, I think we tend to harden our hearts, especially at that time. And really when this whole concept came to mind, I think I was in college and I was in college. I didn't have a ton of money to just throw around because I wasn't working and so I didn't have a big income, but I just had a little bit I was able to use. And so the idea of just giving it away every week to church that I didn't really know what it was going to was not something that was very exciting or thrilling for me. But I thought in my mind at the time when I didn't have a lot coming in, and I thought, you know what, if I only gave $1, just $1, every time I went to Mass, which was every Sunday and then maybe some holy days. But if I just gave it every Sunday, $1, there's 52 weeks in a year. So that's only $52 for an entire year, and every Sunday I'm giving something. And when I broke it down like that, I thought, gosh, I should be putting something in there every week because that's like so small in the big scheme of things. Like that's so doable for me, even though I really wasn't generating much money. I mean, I did things here and there, but I didn't have like constant, reliable income. I just had my money that I had saved up. And so once I started doing that, here and there, it'd become $2, maybe a $5, and then I just started generally and naturally getting that childlike heart again where I was excited. And then when I would see new things at the church, I just felt like, you know what, I'm glad that I was able to help in my small, tiny, itsy-bitsy little way from that. If everybody just gave that tiny amount, it just expands and you can do more work and do more things in your church. But this video is not me trying to guilt you into giving money to your church or saying that you should. My point is that example of kids getting so excited to give in that moment, I mean, where else does that happen? Like, look for that, because I think of just how sweet children are and just that pure innocence. They don't have all these experiences that harden them. They're just like full of joy, and I want to channel that in my life in every area that I can. And I think that to me best exemplifies childlike joy that enters you into the kingdom of heaven, because you don't have all these things of the world that harden you and that make you fearful, that make you bitter, that make you angry. And so it's a call to let go of the anger and the bitterness and the things that interrupted your joy throughout life. The experiences that were so awful and so hurtful that they ruined your joy, they dulled your sparkle. I cannot believe I just used that phrase, but seriously, we let a lot of our experiences dull the parts of us that are good, the parts of us that are filled with joy and gratitude. And so as I'm reminded of this concept of being like a little child and having that willingness to give and that trust that little kids have, and having that in our relationship with God, it's so cool when you observe little children and you think of the characteristics that they have and you take that and apply it to your walk with Christ, it can be a beautiful and inspiring thing. So those are my thoughts for Lent today. If you have any cool experiences involving just an example of childlike confidence and the trust that they have or something similar, I would love to hear that story. So let me know, and I hear my children waking up right now, so I'm going to go check on them, and I hope you all have a great week. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next Lent video. Bye, everyone.